Hi, and welcome to the MCAT Master Interview series. This is Sam, and today we have Peter on the show. Hi, Peter. Thanks for being here with us today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So Peter actually scored a 513 on the MCAT, and in this interview, we're going to learn all about his MCAT journey, including how he studied and his biggest strategies and takeaways from the experience. Well, Peter, we're going to start off. Maybe you can just tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and, be sure to throw in a little interesting fact for us about you. That's always good to hear.
Yeah, sure thing. So I recently graduated from my undergrad, Colorado College, this past May, and got a degree in chemistry. I'm from Denver, Colorado. My first 10 years of my life, I grew up in Seoul, South Korea. Fun fact, I recently worked for the U.S. Olympic Committee during the Winter Olympics as a translator. So that's a cool experience that I have under my belt. So yeah, I guess that's a fun fact.
That's a great job. Like, how did you land that?
Yeah, so actually the U.S. Olympic Committee is located in Colorado Springs, which is very close to where my undergrad institution is. So we kind of had this connection with the school, and I applied through our school's career center. I thought I was perfect fit for the job.
Yeah.
Being fluent in Korean and having lived there for 10 years. So I applied and got the job. There it was. And they flew me out to Korea and did all these fun things. So
yeah, that must have been an interesting experience.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So what inspired you on this path to practicing medicine?
Yeah. So I've always been exposed to the field of medicine since my father was a pediatrician in Korea, and I just saw that he was helping a lot of people in need, people who can't afford going to the doctors and things like that. And to see how grateful they were, I was seeing how much of an impact you can make. So that kind of made me interested, but that wasn't enough for me to just say, I want to be a doctor growing up. But what made me want to pursue medicine was working at a camp for children with serious illnesses as a camp counselor. Yeah. And seeing that those children who spent most of their lives in the hospital and seeing them just doing camp activities like normal children, surrounded by peers who have similar diagnosis, truly showed me how great of an impact you can make in the field of medicine. So yeah, that's what it really inspired me.
That's great. That's actually really great. I think a lot of pre-meds have a similar story to where when they were younger, they saw the kind of impact it has to, really help somebody in this way on a physical level. And this is the kind of experience when we're younger that really drives us. So thank you for sharing. That's really nice.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's kind of get into the MCAT a little bit. If you could describe the MCAT in one word, what would that word be?
Oof. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I'll call it the beast because
the beast.
It's the beast that defeats a lot of pre-meds and a lot of people, but I certainly do think it's conquerable. Doing it the right way. So
all right. So where were you before you began prepping for the MCAT?
Yeah. I graduated in May. I took a week off just to go on vacation with my family, and right after that I started prepping almost full time. I did a volunteering thing on the side, but not huge of a commitment. So I would actually say 3 months of dedicated study period.
Nice. Okay.
And I was supposed to start a medical assistant job, but I kind of negotiated and told them that I really want to put this time into MCAT over the summer. And they allowed me to start in September. So I was pretty lucky in that aspect, and I know that's a luxury that not a lot of people could have. So I was really able to focus on the MCAT over the summer.
Okay, so when you began studying for the MCAT, what was your score goal, and how did you come up with that?
Actually, it's kind of silly because my initial goal before even knowing much about the MCAT, the format and everything, I said I want a 515 because I knew that was a good score. Right. But after my first diagnostic exam and finishing the content review and taking my first practice exam, that was like a reality check that made me realize, that's very difficult to do. We're looking at like 93 percentile or something like that. Just beating everyone out, being in the 93rd percentile among, thousands of pre-meds. That's very difficult to do. So based on that, I kind of just adjusted my goal and went off of that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Did you adjust it to like another tangible number, or do you remember?
Yeah, I said after that, I was like, if I get around to 5'10" or above,
Hmm.
I'd be happy with myself.
Yeah.
So
Did you have like a school that you were aiming to get into that needed that kind of score, or like it was it just?
yes, yeah. So it was based on the fact that I really wanted to go to my state school,
Mm,
University of Colorado,
nice.
which they have their MCAT around like 5'11", 5'12".
Yeah.
So I knew that if I nailed a 5'15", I would have a good chance. But you know,
Well, you
throughout
got
the study
close.
period, yeah, I guess I hit it pretty close. So I'm happy for that.
Nice.
But
Nice.
yeah,
So have you taken the MCAT before?
no, this was actually my first time.
Okay, great. And did you ever postpone the MCAT at any time, or did you stay with the initial date?
I actually postponed, but I don't know if it made a huge difference because it was like 10 days. I was originally supposed to take it on September 8th,
Hmm.
and I wasn't feeling good like
Yeah,
3 weeks out. So I was like, maybe I could benefit from postponing it to September 18th, which I think was like the last day you could take the MCAT this season.
right.
So maybe it helped, maybe it didn't.
Yeah.
But
When
I did
you
it and got a score that I was happy with. So it all worked
Nice.
out.
Yeah. So when you postponed it, like, was it kind of just like a gut feeling, like I just don't feel like I'm ready right now, or was it kind of calculated, like, if I study a little bit more, then I should be fine, kind of thing?
um, I think it was a gut feeling,
Okay.
getting your, so I took practice exams every Saturday and I was, making all these analyses of, oh, if I increase a certain amount of score this time, then I should be able to hit my goal. And
Right.
I wasn't really getting where I wanted to be. So
Hmm.
my initial reaction was, maybe I need extra time.
Hmm.
And I that date was basically my last resort. If I could have postponed it further, I would have done it.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm only asking because, a lot of people get to that position. They're like, should I postpone? Should I not? And I think a lot of it comes down to listening to your gut in these kind of situations. It's hard to really be like, that was the right choice or it wasn't. But from what we're hearing from a lot of top scorers is they trusted their gut in the instances that they did postpone it. So that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you say were your biggest challenges or roadblocks, struggles that you experienced throughout your MCAT journey?
Yeah, first and foremost, I think, you know, if you're a pre-med and you're studying for the MCAT and you're putting all your energy and time into it. A lot of the people around you don't understand what it's like to study for the MCAT.
Hmm.
I've had friends say, why are you putting all this time for studying a graduate entrance exam? I studied for the GRE for like a week and I got a good score,
Hmm.
blah, blah, blah. It's, I think it was hard for me to explain to my friends and my peers, my family also, um, telling them how much the MCAT is going to, determine my future and things like that. So that
Yeah.
was one challenge,
Hmm.
um, I guess limiting my um, social um, experiences over
Hmm.
the summer. Um, so things like that. And I guess the biggest challenge for me was overcoming the feeling of self doubt.
Right.
There was a period of time where my score kind of just plateaued, and I genuinely believed that I wouldn't be able to increase my score no matter
Hmm.
how much I studied. For example, I struggled with biochem
Right.
in the beginning of my studies, and I focused on that section for 2 weeks straight while I was spending less time with other sections.
Uh,
And after I took like 2 practice tests, my score remained the same at like 125, and I was feeling like I wasted time on something that I just cannot improve.
yeah.
But in reality, I was really building the foundations, and all of it just came together at one point. So um, I think practice and repetition really paid off.
Right.
And I'm just, I just think that, once you do enough questions and go over all the answers and things like that,
Yeah.
um, there are only a certain amount of things that the MCAT could test.
Hmm.
So once you hit all of that, like, I think you should be in a really good spot for at least the science sections.
Yeah. Yeah, that
Um,
makes sense.
but then with cars, however, I just felt like I couldn't improve the score whatsoever. And actually, I got the same score on my first practice exam as my last one. So I was quite shocked on how I pulled off my best car score ever on the real one.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I think a lot of the struggles that you mentioned are pretty common, like the self-doubt or the score plateauing. And like you said, I think one of the best remedies to that is just literally consistency and keeping the practice going. And I think a lot of it is also self-analysis, just making sure you're looking back at what you're doing and where you can improve. And a lot of it is like when you plateau, you think that you're not making any progress, but you're, like you said, like laying the foundation. So that's something that's important to keep in mind. And I hope that people do keep that in mind if they're going through that right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree with that.
Okay, so what was your lowest score that you ever got?
So the lowest score I got was a 499 on an Altius full length test.
Yeah.
Needless to say, it was pretty discouraging. It was like maybe 3/4 of the way through my studies. So I knew I was in trouble. But I think what helped, so I've been mainly using Next Step, and to see that Altius, like a different test prep company, has different emphasis and testings differently, really gave me another perspective on, how I should be approaching certain sections. So for example, I think Altius was very helpful in asking experimental questions versus the Next Step. They have a very heavy emphasis on genetics, and I feel like I just wasn't getting enough of that. So it was good in a sense that I was able to, get a gauge of what I need to work on. So yeah.
So you used Next Step and Altius. Did you use any other resources, and which one would you give your highest recommendation to?
So as for the full lengths, obviously I used all of AMC. Used 5 practice tests from Next Step and then 2 from Altius. But then I think my favorite non-AMC resource, I would say, is UWorld. I just think that they have a very comprehensive types of questions, and the explanation that the UWorld has just cannot be beaten in any sense. I think my biggest score increase was due to UWorld and utilizing the great explanations that they had, going over every single questions, and just overall a great user interface that I really enjoyed using. So yeah,
we've been hearing a lot of good things about UWorld. So you went from a 499 being your lowest score all the way to like a 513. That's a pretty impressive jump. So if somebody wanted to make that kind of jump and like increase their score like you did, what advice would you have for them?
So I was very methodical in my studies. I basically, every question bank or every exam that I did, I went over them very thoroughly. I'm talking about spending equal amount of time going over the questions as the time you spend to actually do the questions. So for example, I would make a Google spreadsheet and make different columns of, what type of question this is, what was my logic when I got it wrong, and how I could nail it next time if it was a question that I got wrong. I would spend extra time on questions I got wrong, but also I spend time going over the right questions, because the chances are you're going to get questions right based on, luck or intuition or whatever it is. There are a lot of times where you're not sure that the right answer is that, but you get it right because of that sole reason. So I think going over the right logic and why you got it right is also important, along with going over questions that you got wrong. So I did a lot of that. I did all of UWorld. I did all these practice tests, total of 10, I think 10 or 11. I can't remember.
Nice.
So just repetition and being methodical in your studies and careful analysis of what you're good at and what you need to work on is very important, because, I think it's pretty natural for you to just be, I guess, trying to avoid sections that you're not good at. For me, that was bio. And I just hated it. And every time I got a question wrong, I, I just wouldn't feel good about it. And I don't want to study it because I
Yeah.
wasn't good at
Yeah.
it. That's a mistake that I think a lot of people do make.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
so I think just really just saying, I need to work on this section. Um, I'm going to put a lot of work into it and just make sure that I have all the content review down and
Hmm.
doing as many problems as you can.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of great advice. Very similar to what a lot of other top scorers say as well. Key point is to spend as much time reviewing, or even more time reviewing your exams as you did taking them. 'Cause I think that's where you get the biggest insights to where you can improve, and that's literally where the improvement comes from. Would you say that you did enough practice tests? Like 10, you said you did about 10. Would you say that's a good amount for people to aim for, or would you have done more if had more time?
I think 10 was sufficient amount of
Hmm.
tests. I did hear about people who take like 3 practice exams in a week, and I
Yeah.
just think that's just gonna burn you out, and I
Yeah.
don't think that's just gonna do you any good.
Hmm.
So I think after you finish your content review, just taking one every week
Hmm.
would was sufficient for me.
Hmm.
Had I taken more, I think I would have felt burnt out for sure.
Makes sense.
So no more than a week is my recommendation. If you could do it, good for you, but I don't think I
Yeah.
could have.
Yeah, that makes sense. Did you set up any conditions when you're taking the tests?
Yeah, I tried my best to simulate the real testing situation.
Hmm.
Um, I did give myself some slack, using the bathroom and whatnot.
Yeah.
Taking, extra 10, 15 minutes for lunch.
Yeah.
I don't think that was, I don't think that was too bad on my part.
Yeah.
When I got to the actual thing, actually, my adrenaline kicked in, and
Hmm.
it really did feel like what I was doing every weekend. Um,
Great.
I wasn't looking up answers or anything when I was doing my exam, practice
Mhm.
exams or anything like that.
Yeah.
So trying your best to stay on the actual simulation of the test definitely helps.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think that's what you're really aiming for when you try to simulate conditions is like on test day, you don't feel that much different than when you were at home just taking the test. Like you're already used to it. So if you accomplish that, that's great.
mhm.
You did use the top scorer MCAT strategy guide that we provide. Can you speak a little bit as to how it helped you during your MCAT prep and contribute to your overall score?
Yeah. So I did read it through when I was, just about halfway through my studies, and I
Hmm.
just found that there are a lot of useful tips, everything from beginning of the prep down to the last day before the exam. Um, and some of them I have come to learn on my own just
Hmm.
because I start reading it halfway through my prep.
Right.
But there were many useful tips that I wish I had utilized since the beginning of my studies. I especially found the car section to be very helpful.
Hmm.
Um, I liked it a lot, so I ended up getting the Cars Mastery um, top score document as
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
which are awesome because there's a whole dissection of passages and all these logics that I would have never gotten on my own, and just that step by step analysis of all the answer choices that you get um, was I found it very valuable. So
Hmm.
um, I'm
I'm
very
glad.
happy with the product.
So I wanted to ask you questions about exam day itself. Do you remember how you felt in the morning of the exam? And, if you had any anxiety during test day, how did you deal with that?
Yeah, for sure. I actually felt pretty calm in the morning when I woke up. I knew that I had given my 100%, so no
Hmm.
matter what I would end up getting, I would celebrate this accomplishment of hard work and sacrificing my summer to chase my dreams.
Yeah.
But when I stepped into the testing center, obviously, I was nervous, especially during my first section. But
Hmm.
once I got focused and I was immersing myself in front of the computer, I kind of just tricked my mind into thinking that this was one of many practice exams that I had taken at home.
Yeah.
And that getting in that zone just helped me ease my mind and really focus. And after that, I felt less nervous in the subsequent sections. So
Yeah.
I think I dealt with it fairly well in that aspect.
Yeah, I think that's a great strategy. Just telling yourself, I've put in my best and this is not much different than what I've been doing at home anyway. So it's all about mindset, right? And I think you conquered that aspect pretty well.
Thank you.
So if there was somebody, who's studying for the MCAT and is just kind of feeling burned out right now, frustrated, sad, anything of that nature, do you have kind of anything to say to them, as like a kind of like a mentor or like a big brother? What would you say?
Yeah. Well, first, I think it's very normal to feel burned out at one point. I think taking breaks is very important, and I believe that there needs to be something in your life that balances out the stressful nature of MCAT.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was going to the gym, spending time with family,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm also religious, so going to church on Sundays like really helps me de-stress. Um,
Nice.
and people say, having social life is also very important, but I think it does kind of depend on the person.
Yeah.
Because for me, the more I went out with my friends, the less I felt motivated to study for the MCAT. And seeing how lax their lives are, I didn't want to
Yeah.
study.
Yeah. That
So,
makes sense.
and as for feeling sad and frustrated, I think it's something that majority of people go through while they're
Yeah.
studying for the MCAT. But what separates the people who do well and people who don't is the way you respond to the cause of sadness and frustration, in my opinion.
Hmm.
If your mindset is, just negative, just take a break because it's not productive to study in a cloudy mindset. Come
Right.
back when you're rejuvenated and try something different in your studies. And just keep pushing hard because I think hard work is guaranteed to pay off for the
Mm-hmm.
MCAT. I
Yeah.
think MCAT is a test of discipline and just believing in that you have what it takes to succeed. Um,
Mm-hmm.
really did work for me. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Thanks. That was great. I actually wanted to ask you this earlier. One of your highest score was in psych, so she got a 131. Did you have any advice for students who are struggling with that section of the MCAT, or how did you get such a great score?
Yeah. I'd be a liar if I said luck didn't play a part in it. But this is what I did. I basically read through. I did the content review through the Next Step books,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I felt that was very insufficient. So I
Mm-hmm.
went ahead and downloaded the psychology, sociology Khan Academy notes that you can
Yeah.
easily find online. I know a lot of people use that. Um,
Yeah.
and I watched videos along with it too because the notes are set up in a way that you could follow all the Khan Academy videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
So I watched those videos with the notes maybe twice, I think.
Mm.
And then I also downloaded Anki flashcards. And I did that in my downtime, whether it be, time that I'm waiting for my coffee at a cafe or when
Yeah.
I'm at a restaurant and I order my food and I have my downtime, I'm looking at my Anki notes. Um,
Yeah. That's great.
Listening to MCAT podcasts while I'm working out, those little
Mm-hmm.
things that you can do in your downtime, it's a lot more than you think.
Yeah. No, for
And
sure.
that definitely helped me solidify my knowledge and um, helped me feel prepared for the most part. On test day, I was actually quite upset at how unrepresentative the actual test looked compared to all the tests that I took.
Yeah.
Um, I just felt that, the passages were much longer and the questions were much wordier. Some of the terms I have never seen before. This
Yeah.
is a guarantee for anyone who takes the MCAT. But, I didn't let my mind wander or my emotions, hinder my focus.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the last section and I saw this as an opportunity to shine and not
Yeah.
burn out.
Yeah.
That's probably the case for a lot of students. They're thinking, oh, it's the last test. Psych is kind of like a chill section. I'm going to take it.
Yeah.
No, you got to stay focused.
Yeah.
And then
Exactly.
staying in that mindset, just, I'm going to answer every question that I can to the best of my ability.
Mm-hmm.
Good educated guesses. Um, Helped me just get through the exam on time.
Mm-hmm.
Because on the actual thing, I almost ran out of time.
Mm.
And I honestly thought I bombed it. Walked out of the testing center feeling
Oh
super
man.
defeated. But somehow it ended up being my high section. So
Yeah.
I'm glad I pulled
Pretty-
it off.
Yeah. Wow. It's funny how you walk out thinking you bombed it, and then like next thing you know, you did better than you ever did.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing about the MCAT. I think it's very unpredictable.
Hmm.
And I think that's where, having that positive mindset just comes into play.
Yeah.
I also have a friend who told me that he ran out of time in one of the sections, and he's taking a break. He's giving himself all this pep talk, saying, "I'm not going to let this one section hinder
Yeah.
my mind for the rest of the test." And he
Yeah.
ended up doing very well. So
That's great, man. A lot of these little nuggets of insights that we're getting from you. I'm enjoying this. So, actually, I did want to ask you, did you have a strategy for managing your time during the MCAT?
um, during the practice test, I had this mental note of I should be through certain questions by this time,
Hmm.
and I was pretty strict on that, and I was doing pretty well with that too. But when I got to the actual exam, I don't know if it was the nerves or if the passages were harder. I think the passages were much harder. I
Hmm.
was getting behind in a lot of my sections. Um, and so again, going back to that mindset of, not freaking out and saying, I'm going to answer all the questions to the best of my ability. If a hard question comes up, I'm not going to panic because there's probably another easier question that I am certain that I could get right. So
Nice.
not getting hung up on a question
Hmm.
because there's no way you're going to answer all the questions correctly.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. Do you have any regrets when you think back to your MCAT prep? Like anything you wish you did differently at all?
Um, I would probably say I wish I had gotten into practice questions and full length exams earlier on because I think so. I believe that initially, after finishing my content review, I thought I was set. I thought I was going to do well on my first practice exam after doing the content review. I thought that was just going to magically give me a good score. But that
Yeah.
wasn't it because, half of the MCAT is basically learning how to solve those problems through critical thinking. So I think that was a department that I definitely could have worked on more.
Yeah.
So even though you may not finish the content review, I think it's always valuable to just going ahead and getting familiar with the format and the types of
Right.
questions that they're asking. So
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely agree. It's great. So I guess we're almost at the end of our interview. I just kind of had one last question. So what are your plans for the future? Where do you see yourself in the short term and long term future?
Yeah. So I'm currently working as a medical assistant at a pediatrics clinic.
Hmm.
Um, I'm planning on applying to med school this upcoming cycle, 2019, 2020.
Nice.
So I'll be still working as a medical assistant
Hmm.
while I'm in the application process, and hopefully I'll be able to matriculate in 2020. So
Yeah,
that's the
definitely.
goal, getting into med school.
Yeah. Well, we wish you all the best. Thank you so much. This has been great. There are a lot of students for whom this is a really tough time right now. And I think, when top scorers like you are willing to take out their time and share their insight, it really makes a difference. So thank you. Congratulations on your great score. And on behalf of the entire MCAT Mastery community, we wish you all the best in your journey to the white coat.
Thank you so much. Hey, it was my pleasure.
Hey, this is Sam again, and before you go, I hope hearing Peter's MCAT success story has given you some new perspective on how to conduct your MCAT prep. Throughout this journey, if you feel any doubt, remember Peter's words that the MCAT is a test of mindset and strategy. It's a test of discipline and believing that you have what it takes to succeed, but also constantly evaluating and improving your MCAT study process. I know when you first start studying for the MCAT, it can be exciting because you're one step closer to your medical dreams. But what often happens, especially after writing one or more full-length exams, is that you end up feeling discouraged and afraid because your score is much lower than you thought. And the key is that instead of feeling frustrated and confused, use your score as feedback. This is your signal that you need to revamp the way in which you're studying. Because if you don't change something about the way you're studying, and if you don't change something fast, your MCAT score won't change either, and before you know it, test day will be really close, while med school admission will be really far. So our advice to you is to improve your MCAT study process so your MCAT score can improve as well. And the smartest way to improve your study process is not to waste precious time and energy figuring it out on your own, but instead by seeing exactly how other top scorers before you did it, those who are now in med school. And you can see exactly how they did it in the Top Scorer MCAT Strategy Guide, which we mentioned earlier in this interview. You can click the link in the description to download or learn more about it. And lastly, if you like this interview, be sure to click the subscribe button so you can be notified when we release the next MCAT Master Interview. And if you want to get daily Top Scorer MCAT strategies emailed to you, sign up for our free email list by clicking the link in the description. When you sign up, we'll also send you real case studies of 510 plus scorers to keep you motivated, as well as some valuable free PDFs and other resources that will help you take your score to the next level. And as always, thanks for listening. Good luck with your MCAT prep. You got this.